Hi everyone, it's Simon Keeling here, and it is Sunday the 6th of November, and time for an update and a look ahead as to how things develop over the coming weeks. You know, it's been quite a tricky one over the last couple of days to try and get things in an order and decide on how things are going to develop. I just want to show you this satellite picture first of all this morning. This is from UMETSAT and really shows nicely, look, the British Isles under very clear skies, plenty of sunshine around, but you can just make out this low cloud affecting the southeast. But just look down here in the Mediterranean, low pressure with areas of cloud and rain rotating around that low. But here's our cloud and rain that's coming into the northwest of Scotland. These are Atlantic fronts that are trying to pile their way in and trying to defeat the area of high pressure that's over the top of us at the moment. But what's diverting my attention at the moment is how things are going to develop through the middle and the latter part of the month. Let me just show you some charts here and give you an idea as to where I think things are gradually going. These are the charts from... So these are the 8 to 10 day means from the PSU E-wall, and they are of the 500 millibar heights, and it shows the anomalies as well. So the one on the left here is from the ECMWF model, the one on the right is from the GFS model, and these are the means of the 500 millibar heights running from next Sunday through to the following Wednesday. So that will be from, where are we, the 13th through to the 16th of November. And what they're showing is very interesting. We've got some similarities between the two. British Isles is under here, look, got a trough out towards the west. We've got a ridge out towards the east, which is the area of high pressure we've got over Eastern Europe at the moment. What is interesting though is look at the anomalies, look at the reds here showing higher heights than normal across Europe and across the northern parts of Europe too, so going through Iceland, Greenland and down into the eastern states. Now the effect of this would be that we get areas of low pressure coming across the Atlantic, but they'd be forced southwards through Iberia and probably getting stuck somewhere across southwestern parts of Iberia, which would turn our flow more into a southeasterly. Now high pressure could build in and it could well bring in a southeasterly flow, which means we have to start questioning about the weather possibly turning cooler and becoming drier too, so going into a spell of drier, cooler early winter weather. Now notice I haven't said cold because I don't think it's going to get to that stage, but we're getting these indications from the models now that these changes are taking place. Now I said I thought they'd be somewhere between the 10th and the 13th. Looks like they're going to be a little bit later. It's going to be somewhere around the 13th, 14th, 15th time, somewhere around that. But the story to take is that things are changing, and good agreement from the GFS as well, and it makes GFS actually makes more of this blocking of this high towards the north of the country, which as I said would force these areas of low pressure look into the Med, and that actually looks more believable to me that it's got that trough more into the western Med than the ECMWF has. So it's fascinating times to be watching these charts, and this is how the GFS sees the precipitation forecast over the next week. This is from today through to next Sunday. Notice it's a dry look over Central Europe. Here's the wetter weather across the west of the British Isles, sort of 20 to 30 mil here. 2 to 5 millimetres for the east, and this reflects high pressure really being close by towards the east of England. For the following week, so Monday the 14th through to Tuesday the 22nd, more unsettled across the country generally, 10 to 20 mil of rain, but you've kind of got to take this a little bit of a pinch of salt because the model resolution at this stage isn't actually that great that far out. But just look how wet the Mediterranean is, and it's this that I want to take as the main point here. This is where low pressure is going to go into, and it's here where we're going to get some very unseasonable wet weather through this kind of period of mid-November, which means we're drier up to the north. The anomalies for next week really just pick up on that very dry weather look across the northern parts of Europe, but just look how wet it is here into the Mediterranean. Okay, so let's get some reasoning behind what on earth I'm talking about here. And remember the trough. Remember the trough that I was showing you out in the Atlantic there on the 8 to 10 day forecast means. Well, if you picture that low pressure is going to be coming down here into the west of Iberia. This is the sea surface temperature anomaly chart, by the way. So yellow showing us where it's warmer than it should be at this time of year. And all of those low pressure areas, look, they're starting life across the North Atlantic. They're dipping southwards. They're coming across the warmer waters of the Atlantic. So they've got warm air at the bottom. They've got cold air aloft, and that really aids this lifting and aids this unsettling of the weather for these areas. So the lows get deeper as they track into Iberia, bringing this really wet weather down there. Quite interesting to see the La Nina as well, this cold weather. Look, this cold temperatures across the Pacific Ocean whilst the Atlantic is warm. Quite a big signal there coming that low pressure is confirmed as going into the Mediterranean with high pressure through the British Isles. So, enough waffling. How does that actually translate into weather? Okay, let's take you through the sequence from the GFS model. This is from weatheronline.co.uk. This is today. The time's up here, top left-hand corner. It's got precipitation on there as well, which are these bluer colours. There's average of high pressure from today. Now, as we knock it on through the next few days, notice the ridge of high pressure is going to be staying in there through Monday morning, bringing probably some pretty widespread mist and fog patches across northern parts of the country. Maybe slow to clear, but once they do, looks like Monday should be a generally dry day, good spells of sunshine, perhaps an early frost as well Monday morning. Overnight frost into Tuesday too, nothing severe, but be ready for it. It could be a degree or two below. And then into Tuesday, it's dry again. We've got mainly dry conditions look through most of the country, but on Wednesday we start off fine, but then look what happens late Wednesday. We get an Atlantic front trying to push in from the west. It mainly affects western parts of the country. The east still under the influence of high pressure out towards the east. And as we go through into Thursday and Friday, so these fronts continue to pound in to Ireland and western coast of the British Isles, but very, very few making it through towards the east. And look how that pattern kind of settles in as we get into next weekend. Again, it's the west that's wet. Areas of low pressure here, but this high blocking out and persisting there, stopping this eastward progression of the areas of low pressure. So it's the west and the north that fare worst of all from the rain during the coming week, with the east being mainly dry. As we get into the following week, this is where we start to see this fundamental change taking place. So I've kind of been probably 2 or 3 days out on this, but the overall pattern I'm quite pleased with. That low pressure comes into the Bay of Biscay area, and then we start to pick up this southeasterly flow. Look, this easterly flow coming through. High pressure by then north of the country. And as we go through into the beginning part of next week, the GFS pulling in these easterly winds, cooling things down, bringing generally dry weather, but some drizzle down these eastern coasts. Best of the sun out towards the west. But it's this easterly flow that's going to be the most important thing here. By now, parts of Europe will be starting to cool down, so this is going to be cooler weather coming through us into the middle of the month. I actually don't think the flow is going to be this easterly. I think it's going to be more southeasterly, but the overall pattern is there of high pressure building in, and you can see how the model keeps that there, look, as we go through much of next week and into the following weekend. By then, though, starting to bring a low back into the northwest of the country. Not sure that's exactly the way this progresses, but it could be a possible pattern. So, how much confidence can we actually have in this forecast at the moment? Well, let's do a comparison between the various models. Here's the GFS, here's the UK Met Office, down here we've got the ECMWF, and we've got the GFS Ensemble. Now, this is valid for Saturday, so next Saturday at midnight, and you notice how we've got low pressure northwest of the country and west of the country, look, with high pressure towards the east. Good agreement between all the models, so we can have fairly high confidence in the forecast that I've just given you, is that it's going to be the west that fares worse during this week, the east faring better. Let's just knock it on and have a look at 240 hours. So this is where we start to get a little bit further advanced. So what we're going to take a look at here is the GFS, the ECMWF, what we call the operational models, and also the ensemble models of the GFS and the ECMWF. Interesting here, the operational models here tend to try and pick out too much detail, but what they're showing is, on the GFS, look, low pressure south and west of the country. ECMWF has low pressure to the west. ECMWF more in line with building this high through Central Europe, more of a southerly flow look, while the GFS has the low towards the south and brings in this easterly that I showed you. If we go down to the ensemble, of the GFS and of the ECMWF, this is probably getting close to the truth. GFS has the low out towards the west, the ECMWF ensemble has the low out towards the west and the high to the east. But look, this ECMWF flow is more of a southeasterly across the country. High pressure still there, so dry conditions. This is Wednesday the 16th, a week on Wednesday now, and bringing in these dry southeasterly conditions. So I think that's probably where we are going to be going with this. And just a final look at further ahead for you. This is valid for Tuesday the 22nd, right at the extremes of the GFS model. This is the operational GFS, this is the ensemble GFS. Bit of difference between the two, quite a difference between the two, but one thing to notice is they are both developing an area of low pressure to the west of Iceland and bringing this down through the country. Now, this could be quite an important feature, because if this sinks southeastwards around the 25th, 22nd, it could then pull in a northerly wind, which for the turn of the month could well put us into winter proper. However, it's a long time away, so we'll wait and see what happens, but there are the signals there. Okay, now, as I've said to you before, this forecast is kept free of charge by the advertisers you can see around the screen here. So if you see an advert you like, click on it, show your support for us and also for the advertiser too. Thanks for watching, and of course, as always, you can get the very latest forecasts from WeatherWeb. All you do is go to www.weatherweb.net, and here you can enter in your postcode, your town, and it will produce a forecast for you, and we've got more information on there about the forecasts too. So thanks for watching, keep the sun shining. I know I've rambled on a bit there, that's a very long video, but I hope it's been useful for you. Thanks for watching and have a great day.